Long time no see, lads, and now it's budget PC time. Now let's start off with the motherboard. We got here today the B560M. You can read there. We unbox, well, let's take it out. You find the motherboard in a non-static bag. Put that aside. In there you find the manual and some SATA cables, an IO shield, MSI sticker, and some other stupid things. So we'll put these aside, and then we'll get our motherboard, open it up, take it out and put it on here. This is a hard surface that is non-static. Now put this aside for now. We'll bring in our brain of the computer, the Intel Core i3 10th gen. It's the i3 10.10.5 LGA 1200 10th gen, 2 generations old, but still very cheap these days. So we'll open it up. And we'll have the CPU here. Put that aside. And then we have our CPU cooler, which we'll leave for now. So we'll put that aside. So we'll now bring back the motherboard. Now this motherboard is LGA 1200, as I said, for 10th and 11th gen Intel CPUs. So we'll take the CPU out. For this, you just unhook this and then it'll come up. Flip this up and don't not touch the pins, very dangerous. Now there will be a little golden triangle there, if you can see there, and you want to line that up with a dot or a marking on the motherboard. So we'll put that, stick that in. Very good. Now we'll flip this down. Then we'll put this, flip this down back, and it'll feel hard, but go with it. Then the cover will pop off, and save this for later. Put it in your motherboard box. I'll put it aside for now. So after we've seated the CPU, we'll move on to the RAM. So here there will be these things, you flick both of them up. So this motherboard only has 2 slots as it's a budget board. Yep, and then we'll get our sticks of RAM. So today we have 2 sticks of 8 gigabytes, in total 16 gigs of RAM. Then we'll line up the notch there with the notch on the motherboard. Then you need to press with both hands down firmly until you hear the click. Once you hear that click, you're good. Now let's do the other one. "16 gigs of RAM, very good." And next we'll move on to our SSD. It's an M.2 NVMe 1.3 SSD from Silicon Power as our RAM. Now we'll rip this out. Now we got it out. Now just take the SSD out. Looks like that, a little guy. Now we put that aside for now. You need a pair of screwdrivers and screw the screws out of the M.2 slot. Okay, now we put our M.2, slot it right in there. Then put it down. Make sure it goes in the way, in all the way. Now we put that in, and you need our heat sink. heatsink, we just rip this plastic thing off like that, and then we'll put it on the SSD. Then we put the screws back on, and very good, the SSD is now installed. After we've installed the CPU, RAM and SSD, we'll now install the CPU cooler. So the stock cooler from Intel already has some thermal paste on it. You see there, it's a little guy because this is just an i3, takes only 60 watts. You need to bring the cable out first, and then there's a 4-pin. Now you plug this into the CPU fan 1. Now for this, you just push everything down. Once it's in, we get this, and then there will be a little marking, so it only goes in one way, and then we'll plug it into CPU fan 1, which is here. Plug it in. Very nice. Now the CPU cooler is also installed. Now we'll get ready to put this in the case. Alright, so we got our case now. Let's flip it over. This is the bottom. We'll flip. Oops, some part fell out. We'll get that sorted. Lift this. Let that out. Put that on there. We'll take this cover off. Then here we got our case, the AZZA 1110 Luminous. So we got the case here, we got some thumb screws. This is a really budget case, but it's still got some tempered glass. So we'll remove the front panel. Very good. Now we'll take the tempered glass off. Make sure it doesn't fall because it's glass. Put that aside. Now we've got the inside. This fits an mATX motherboard. Yep. It's room for some 120 to 140. 2 of each fan up at the front, on the top. Have our power supply here, full ATX. And then we got an included case fan over here. Now let's look at the back panel. Next at the back panel, we got some more thumb screws. That's a lot of room. Yep, it uses Molex, so it doesn't waste your fan hub. And then the front, there's a front LED here, and it also uses Molex power. And you got your 3.5 inch bays and your SSDs, your 2.5 inch. Then you got your front I/O connectors here, and your power supply goes here, and there's very good space to do cable management. Now let's get into it, shall we? We'll start off with the I/O shield here, and we'll put it in here. So we'll get this out of the way, and we'll put this in, the I/O shield of our motherboard. Now that the I/O shield is in, we're about to put the motherboard in now. Let's see if there's enough standoffs already in. So, it's missing one, we see. So in your case, there will be a bag of screws and stuff down in the 3.5 inch bay, and then there might be some screws and motherboard standoffs there. So we'll just put the extra one in. And then we'll get our motherboard and we'll line it up. With the I/O shield as well. And then we get our screwdriver. And we screw in the screws of the motherboard. And last one. Right, we're done. Okay, so now we'll put this back through this hole up here, and we'll get ready for the cable management, the fun part. And now we'll put the power supply in. So we have the SilverStone ST40F ES230, the power supply, which is 80 plus rating, just good enough to survive. So we'll put it in. It goes in right here with the fan facing down because there's a mesh here in case for dust and stuff. Put it like that, and then we'll come to the back here. Then we'll put in some screws. Make sure you put the screws in a cross pattern so it applies even pressure. So I'll go bottom left first, then top right, top left, and bottom right. And the power supply is installed. Now once all of this, there's now this mess which I'll deal with and I'll cable manage, and I'll get back to you shortly.
One eternity later.
Now I'm done with the cable management stuff, so it looks like this. It's okay, but I'll fix it up later. But then now time to power it on and install the software and Windows and other things, and I'll get back to you then.
2 very boring minutes later.
Right, so we are now in the computer. We've got Windows installed. Now let's look at the task manager. The CPU, we have an i3-10105, 3.70 gigahertz. There's 4 cores and 4 threads. And for the memory, 16 gigs dual channel of 2666. Then we have an M.2 and an M.2 SSD, 256 gigs. And Wi-Fi, I put in a Wi-Fi adapter, and then we have the integrated graphics. So we have that. This, we're in Windows 11. It's hard, it's a bit harder to use than Windows 10, but anyways, let's start off with let's test the CPU with some Geekbench. So you might hear some noise, some noise like that. That's the fans. I'm sitting quite close to the PC right now. Everything's cable manage wise done. We're now doing the test. Now we have Geekbench here. Let's run a CPU test. Yes. There we go. And then we'll open up MSI Afterburner. Then we'll get the monitor out and we'll monitor everything. So we'll get back. So I'll be here with the results soon. So see you then. Alright, so now the Geekbench is done. We have the score here. We have an MSI motherboard, as you would know. We can close this and we'll come down. There's our CPU, 4 cores, 8 threads, maximum frequency, blah blah blah, comet leg, socket, LGA 1200, yes, 16 gigs of DDR4, yep. And here we go, single core, we got 959, then multi-core, we got 3979. Pretty good for this would do totally fine. This is an i3, 2 generations old. It will do your workloads fine and perfect for your budget CPU, and every workload that you have for it, it will complete it, except 8K video. Don't watch 8K video, please don't. But then 4K does fine, everything fine, and the perfect computer for the budget people. And that's it for today, folks. The budget PC, about $500 US. and not sure if you can hear the the fan noise here, but I'm sitting pretty close to it. It's not that loud, which is great, and it's a budget PC that all of you can afford. And with the i3, it would it performs very well and under load very well and does everything very well. And last of all, we can't forget, we have to peel. Let's do that peel. Oh, beautiful, beautiful, man. We'll do it on the other side too. Wow, very satisfying. Now we'll put that back on. And that's it for today, guys, with this budget PC. And now we'll take this away, and till we meet again.